I wanted to be out there, halfway up Half Dome or out in the Amazon exploring this new mountain, something that was really exciting and adventurous. And I realized that within the business world, the adventure was in starting a business. It was within entrepreneurship.
Hello, friends. That's Asa Firestone, a self-proclaimed washed-up explorer turned entrepreneur. I'm big mountain skier and adventurer Lynsey Dyer, and this is the Showing Up podcast. I started these conversations to reconnect with real humans again, in the spirit of progress over perfection, to inspire the unicorn in you to show up for yourself, confront the unknown, and expand into flow. Asa co-founded the Boulder Adventure Lodge, aka the A Lodge, and has also co-founded several successful nonprofit organizations focused around the outdoors. These include Climb for Colorado, Adventure Forward, and Centro de Escalada Urbana. In this conversation, we go deep on understanding the journey that is life and Asa's road to entrepreneurship. This is an awesome conversation, another one, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Okay, so let's just paint the picture. It's January in the heart of outside of Boulder, Colorado, up a beautiful canyon, and I'm walking with...
My name is Asa Firestone, and I'm the owner of the A Lodge in Boulder, Colorado.
And we're having a beautiful discussion about entrepreneurship, about serving a community, and about following your dream, right? And not in a fluffy sort of way, but a very practical, conscious. Essentially, you're taking care of your community. You're wanting to make a real business and make some money, as well as doing what you love, which is serving the outdoors and helping other people enjoy that too. It's pretty rad.
Yeah. I mean, that's the goal. I don't know if we're achieving those things, but we're certainly trying to. I mean, what's the point of starting a business if you're not having fun? What's the point of working your ass off if you're not going to make some money? And what's the point of living in a community if you can't help that community and be part of it and help it grow? So hopefully that's what we're trying to do here. And to paint a picture, so we are at the A Lodge, which is 2 miles from downtown Boulder. It's a 29-room hotel with 12 hostel beds and 2 campsites. We're the only hostel and camping in Boulder, Colorado.
So we're just kind of getting situated. But I do this podcast, I don't have a budget for it. I don't have official editing or anything. I feel like our people, our outdoors people deserve a voice. And so often we are known for what we can do, like, oh, that's crazy what you do, but you've never really heard these athletes. And not all of them have much to say, but some of them have not just a lot to say, but a real message behind why they do what they do. Mm-hmm. For example, Honnold was, I think we all can somewhat relate to trying to find perfection in whatever is your thing. Perfection in art, perfection in business, like ultimate efficiency. Yeah,
perfection in free soloing.
Exactly. And that's just his expression of finding, pure, flow. Those are the only words I can come up with. So essentially, I just wanted to give, I've also lost so many of my good friends that are absolute wizards in this life, assuming they can do anything, and they're not here anymore to capture that. Like Dean Potter was someone who had so much to say, right? And I had a beautiful nonverbal communication with him in one of the most powerful ways. That's the fire behind me. I might have to move.
You want to say?
Essentially, I once, this is kind of off topic, but I once was shooting with Jimmy Chin on the top of El Cap for National Geographic, and I was just there being like a helper, right? Trying to stay out of the way because it was really stressful. And they were about to go shoot Dean Potter, and
when he was free soloing a certain section of
Well,
El
him
Cap,
and
right?
3 other guys.
Yeah.
And essentially, we knew what we were doing. Obviously, it's dangerous, and there's a lot of pressure. For Jimmy had a lot of pressure on him to get the most epic shots that have ever been gotten in climbing. That's a lot to ask.
Yeah.
So he's got a lot on his shoulders. He's got some amazing assistants that are there, and I had felt so lucky that I got to fly in late and go to the costume shop and get Dean Potter, the wizard, his freaking mask, his wizard mask, so that we could shoot and not give these guys' identities away. They all had to have masks on. So it was fully like watching a superhero mentor these 3 other dudes to all jump off El Cap together at the same time. And he had such grace, and he was so calm and so humble and so in tune. His energy, because he used his energy. I watched it from sitting on a rock. I watched him calm these other guys down, make them know exactly what they needed to do. He was such a wizard and such a master. I have to say that's one of the reasons I wanted to start this, because there's so many wizards, right? And I think they have a lot to teach us. And no one really got to hear his voice. You know, he did make a film or 2 in the end. I would always meet up with him in his various life stages in Telluride at Mountain Film. And, you know, one year he'd be the deep, dark wizard, like clearly a raven in a human body.
Yeah.
And,
and remember that film, The Aerialist,
Yeah.
which was about him. I think Brad, I can't remember the filmmaker, but it came out in like 2008, and it was mind-blowing. And it was that. There was like a scene in there where Dean Potter like turned into a raven.
Yeah. We all, you know, it was clearly like his thing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm totally taking us on a tangent, but I guess I just figured I would go with it, an honor for this amazing human. And so anyways, I'm encountering with this process just how special some other people are in this industry. And then, yeah, like I said, if we all can take a note from something they did well, because all of us, myself included, and you know, are just... we're all guessing. There's no clear path.
And we're pursuing that state of flow that you talk about, you know, whether it's, you know, Dean Potter, you know, base jumping off El Cap, or Alex Honnold free soloing El Cap. I mean, you know, starting a hotel is not that at all, but it's in
risk.
The pursuit of something similar, of almost the same thing, which is finding that state of flow, because, you know, you're exactly right. I mean, I think there's a parallel between entrepreneurship and expeditions.
Absolutely.
And because you've got risk involved, you've got that passion that somehow drives you to take those risks. Then you have to find a team and just go and suffer.
And you have to be willing to fail. I think that's a huge thing that I'm learning is success comes to those who are willing to fail, who are willing to go out and try a bunch of times and make some mistakes, and not let that be something to be ashamed of, but to absolutely use it as a data point and to move on. You know, of course, that doesn't mean you can make enemies. That's not a data point that I'm willing to fail at, but I'm just noticing that more and more, and it's absolutely universal between entrepreneurs, I think, and athletes. So.
Yeah, and I think that if you look at any of these wizards that you speak of, they had to go through failures to become a wizard. You can't become a wizard by just having a win every single time, because that means you're not actually pushing yourself.
And
hard enough.
You have to be willing to be the weird one. Like, I think all of us at some point, probably in our youth, just felt like we didn't fit in. And that's kind of the trade-off of when you finally embrace your weirdo. That is the open niche that needs to be filled on the planet. And I think sometimes we can spend half of our lives like hating that part about us. For me, it was like, grow up. Like, would you grow up? You're just a little kid. And I was kind of like ashamed of that. Like, you've got to grow up. But now I'm realizing that's like who I am intrinsically. And by embracing it, I can be a greater service to the world. And it means loving myself more and letting go of this like universal, this is how you're supposed to look. This is how you will be accepted if you fit in these ways.
Yeah.
Every time I've taken that
beautiful.
route, it's been amazing things have happened, but then I forgot. Like, that's how I created my ski career, you know, out of nothing. So anyways, again, tangents, but what I wanted to talk to you about is how, all of those things are universal, in especially in business, because you are an athlete, and then you took that into the world of business. So I think that we all have that crossover, and I'd love to hear about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's really cool that you recognize that, and it's not everybody who thinks of business and entrepreneurship as being an adventure, but that really is what it is, and that's what attracted me to it personally. In 2007, I got a grant from National Geographic, and
You're how old are you?
I'm 35 now.
So I'm going to let you tell the story, and
Sure.
then just so you know, I want you to take us to the beginning.
Sure.
So tell us this one, and then let's go to trajectory of how you got here.
So, I was just kind of thinking through how I got turned on to the adventure of business. And I think it was back in 2007, I got a grant to go on this crazy adventure in the Amazon. We were going to go climb this peak in the middle of the deepest, darkest part of the Amazon called Serra Aratitiope. And Rick Ridgway and Todd Skinner had climbed it in like 92. And nobody had been back there pretty much since. And we were going to go climb this face that was steeper than nobody had ever climbed before. And of course, we get out there, we spend 2 weeks in a boat trying to get out to this destination. We're in military zone of Venezuela. And this is during the time of Cesar Chavez. So it was pretty sketchy. And then we wound up just getting totally stumped by the jungle. We had Yanomami natives as porters, and they were they'd never done portering before. They didn't really get it. So it was kind of a bad situation. We were romping through, poisonous snake infested areas, and, it just didn't work. We had to turn around, and it was like this huge disappointment. But I came out of that, and we wound up climbing this other big wall over on near Angel Falls on Acapon, putting up a first ascent. But it was just that whole experience of getting out there, having this passion to go accomplish this thing, getting a team together, and then just going out there and suffering and being determined and stubborn to, even if we failed, we were going to pull something else off. We're going to figure it out. And
what would pulling something else off mean?
Well, it was what happened to us. Our main objective, we completely failed at.
Which is typical.
But it's how do you exactly, and it's how do you react to that? How do you because people are going to always bump into obstacles or barriers that honestly aren't. You can't overcome them, but you can divert and you can be resourceful. And what we did is we said, okay, well, let's extend our trip. And we're already down here. We're going to go to this other area that's a lot easier to get to. It was a flight and a hike in. And then we have access to, 2,000-foot big wall first ascent potential. And we were able to pull one off with 5 days on the wall. And we named it Lost in Venezuela, fittingly. But, it was that experience that then got me thinking about how starting a business would be similar to that type of an adventure. It, more socially and intellectually versus physically, but it was still an adventure with real risk, real reward, and real camaraderie with your teammates.
Wow. So is it?
Yeah. I mean, it's been, in starting the A-Lodge, we had this concept for a climbers hostel in Boulder. We thought we were just going to get a small house and pull it together, but zoning didn't really let us do that. We wound up with this big opportunity with an investor to go in on essentially a 30-room hotel. And we got started on it, and, it's a bigger project than we thought we were trying to get into.
Don't they say, take the budget that you think it's going to be, double or triple it.
Triple it, quadruple it, yeah. Well, and that's what happened to us is we started working on redoing this lobby that we're sitting in now. When we opened it up, there was no foundation in the building.
Did you open it up before you bought it, or is
No,
this after?
no,
So,
this is
tell me
a
the
month
whole
after.
Oh, okay. So you didn't realize that the foundation wasn't sound before you bought it?
Yeah, we had no idea.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Why would you do that? Come on.
Well, we didn't know. And then at that point, we, I guess we could have like gone and tried to sue the former owner, be like, you sold us something that you didn't disclaim, you didn't, notify that there's this issue with the foundation. But it's like, you know what? What's the point of that? And honestly, it was still a big opportunity for us. It's still going to work out financially, even though it cost us 5 times as much as we thought. It took 3 years instead of 6 months.
So tell me how you input that into the original business model, where it could take those significant shifts in versus what you're expecting.
We got lucky. Boulder was going through a very the real estate prices were going through the roof. Rent was going up really quickly in the last 3 years. And Boulder especially was just getting this huge influx of people and visitors, partly with the legalization of marijuana, partly with just Boulder kind of getting on the radar, Colorado being becoming a really popular place to move. And what happened is that we were able to double our revenues. Yo, what's up, dude?
We're pausing for the neighbors. So we just had a little pause as friends walked in and out. And so back to the story, you had just come back from this amazing adventure. And how did you apply it to getting into the business world?
Well, so when I got that grant from National Geographic, I assumed that I was going to pursue the life of an adventure filmmaker and maybe like a professional expedition climber. But out there on that trip, I quickly kind of realized that, we failed pretty hard at our main objective. It was this crazy remote peak in the Venezuelan Amazon called Cerro Artitiope. And we just got, it was 2-week boat ride to get in there. And then it was a 10-mile hike through the Amazon to get to the base of the mountain. So it was, a ridiculous objective. And we failed. And so I kind of realized that, maybe this wasn't exactly what I was built for. And maybe instead I would rather apply those skills that I'd learned from expeditions and from climbing and adventure to the adventure of business, starting your own business and seeing something that you want to be there within society or within your community. Like the A-Lodge, for example, like a climber's hostel in Boulder.
However, but you never had a roadmap. Like are there people that have done this ahead of you that you could, look to say, where's the standard? Or were you literally creating this out of what you wanted to see in the world?
That's a good question. I think that for me,
like obviously a lot of pro athletes, they see pro athletes ahead of them and they're like, that's what I want to be. Like, what was it for you?
I think for me, I was just trying to figure out where I fit in the world, like trying to make my path. And I would like try this or try that. I was an engineer for a while and I was terrible at that. I was never good at like taking directions from people and then sitting at a computer all day and analyzing small details of a system. I wanted to be out there, halfway up Half Dome or out in the Amazon exploring this new mountain, something that was really exciting and adventurous. And I realized that within the business world, the adventure was in starting a business. It was within entrepreneurship. And, it took me, a number of businesses that failed to finally find one that so far seems like it's working. We did, but every time that you do fail, there are things that persevere from that, not just lessons, but also the impacts with people that have influenced things to happen in a really good way. For example, a business that I started in 2012 was called Beyond Gear, and it was to we were selling climbing jewelry and chalk bags and backpacks, and in the effort to help fund a climbing program in Brazil that helped at-risk kids get outside to climb. And that business wound up failing, but the program in Brazil has flourished. And it's been part of, it's been that whole experience of having that failed business that has actually helped that program succeed.
Right. Make all the mistakes.
Yeah, and we learned a lot, and we put a lot of focus into it.
Well, what about when you can't fail? So, for example, I felt like when I made the movie, I couldn't afford to get my budget incorrect. So what? And it's the same attitude as Alex Honnold, right? He can't afford to make a wrong move. So how do we apply that?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think that you have to have, just like Alex Honnold, just like climbing, you have to have this sense of when you can free solo and when you can't. And for example, I would go over to the Dome down the street from me and solo the East Slabs routes, 5-6, and I've done it a billion times. And I'll do that any day of the week.
Because every move.
Yeah, because I know every move, and I know I can do it.
However, a person looking at that for the first time would say that's absolutely crazy. That makes so much sense. And that's one thing about skiing is that people don't recognize that you haven't climbing. And not to cut you off, but for climbers, when you see a film of someone climbing, you're seeing the final touches of their masterpiece that they've probably been working on for a month to 3 months, depending on how difficult it really is. And to us, the onlooker, it looks like you're just pulling something off that's insane without ropes. But, Alex, for example, and every other climber, like you said, they are memorizing that route from bottom to top like it's a freaking symphony. And then they get their chance to step up to that one note they haven't hit yet, and then they unlock the puzzle, and then they've got it.
Yeah,
exactly. That makes so much sense. The trouble with me is, I'm thinking of Alex on the wall, and what about freaking birds? Or what about, he gets stung by a bee? You know what I mean? It's those things that are, out of your control, or the wind gusts that you didn't have the 360 other times that you tried it.
Well, I mean, that's why he's able to that's why nobody else does what Alex does, because he has the ability to withstand those risks and to be able to stay focused with, facing that type of real consequence. And so you could say the same about a business entrepreneur who is able to, manage all of the risks. Let's say he's taken a ton of investment for a startup, or she has, taken on a bunch of debt, or there's a big event, for me, it was the last 2 days we had this big event, and I was this close to not having this lobby finished.
Wow.
And I was super stressed, but it was one of those things that it was worth the reward. The risk was worth the reward for me to have this deadline and to take on this debt to build this hotel lobby. I think that it's all about knowing what you can accomplish and knowing your abilities, and then being able to maintain performance even when things are getting really dicey. So for example, when you're soloing, if you can do it, even though it's terrifying and even though the consequences are severe, then you're going to be more successful, and because you're going to stay focused and you're going to be climbing well.
It's kind of like shooting for the moon. So it's like, if you know that you can afford to fail a bunch of times, you're going to make more mistakes because you can afford to. But if you're going to shoot for the moon, for that one hole in the sky, then you are going to do it, wait for the right time. I mean, I'm just seeing this apply to everything, like relationships or... Yeah,
and then if you can't do it, you have to have the foresight to not jump the gun. Alex Honnold didn't free solo El Capitan before he free soloed Half Dome, before he free soloed Moonlight.
Right.
He knew he could do it.
Let me ask you, just for the conversation's sake, how do we apply this to relationships? We're applying it to business. How can we apply it? Because I feel like
that's a great question. I think that it's you got to know that it's the right fit, and then you got to go all in and be committed to the climb or be committed to the relationship, because that it's worth it.
And I think that's why you wait until, well, and I'm just playing, right? This is just conversation. I'm figuring this out as I go or not. But I've never found anything more fun than skiing. and like he was saying, the value of the joy that I get on those few perfect days are enough to handle any suffering that comes with that. And so therefore, like the risk versus reward, or it's not even risk, it's like the shitty times are so far less than this gift that I've found what I call group flow in, and that's why I love it so much, because you're communing with nature as well as all your friends around you as you're in motion, breathing. And I've just never found anything as special. You know, there's moments of it at a concert, there's moments in a car on a road trip.
Did you find that flow when you were making your film?
Absolutely. Every day was in flow. And I guess another word for it would be intuition, and also giving up my power, not my power, but giving up. I don't talk about this, but I prayed, and I wouldn't call myself religious, but spiritual. And I prayed on behalf of Divine Feminine to be a conduit on something bigger than I could even comprehend, and to stay humble enough. But I prayed like every day, like, please, guide this project if you want it to happen, in a humble way, in a good way, in an easy way, and in a way that will heal. So asking for that intention, and also recognizing that I had no idea what I was doing. I had never made a movie. I didn't go to business school. I didn't know how to build a budget and a spreadsheet, and no one took me seriously, and I didn't even take myself seriously at first. But I knew that if I got all of our highlights together as women in one place, that we could really have an impact and show that we are here, and we are performing at the highest level. And you might not be seeing that except for like one chick in the, one part in ski movies. And so I got off tangent, but what I was trying to get to is how do we apply this to relationships? And I think what you were trying to say is the rating system is like, is this giving you so much joy that it's worth maybe some shitty points that come up? And therefore, yeah, it's worth a little bit of suffering, but it just takes a long time. In my experience, I think some people find it quickly. Luckily with skiing, I found that early, but I haven't found that too much in my life where it's more fun, way more fun than it is the suffering, and therefore dedicate yourself to it.
Yeah. I mean, relationships, there's nothing really more difficult than that,
Why does everyone say that? Why do the first thing people say when they think of relationships is difficult? Because that sounds shitty.
That does
like,
sound
why
shitty.
would you ever go for that then?
No, because I think that it's there's like you were saying, there's so much good and joy and fulfillment to be had through a good, healthy relationship. But anytime that you put two people together and try to join two humans, separate, living, complex creatures like humans together, it's very difficult, because now all of a sudden you have to depend on someone else, or you
For
have
what?
to.
Why do you have to depend on someone else?
Well, it's
depend on them for what?
It really depends on the relationship.
No, I think in the ultimate relationship, you're just if instead of making two, you're making like quadruple like benefit, because you make each other the best that you are. There's no dependency. That's all. You inspire me to be the best version of me, to take more responsibility, and to wake up, and you make me want to be better, right? That's ultimately,
but you're
to
still
me,
in a dance with that person.
Yeah, I mean,
and within
there's
a
still
dance, you have to
compromise.
depend on them to make the right moves at times. It's like you can. The best relationships, using this stupid dance metaphor. And I literally know nothing about relationships.
Yeah, I don't either.
I'm the worst person to be asking.
I don't even know why I'm
But,
talking.
however.
That's not true. I take it back.
Yeah.
No self-mean words.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was a time I didn't know anything about relationships. How about that?
Yeah. And likewise, I've been getting better, learning more. And anyways, the best, using the dance metaphor, the best relationships are ones where you can innovate with your partner, and there's an unwritten communication going on that allows for a beautiful interaction that isn't fully dependent, but is playful. You know, I don't know if that makes any sense. But.
Well, I think that also opens up opportunities to let the other person also be imperfect. Me and my partner have this agreement that if you hit 4 out of 10 of the balls thrown at you, that you would be in the MVP, what do you call it in baseball?
Batting 400 is very, very rare.
Right. And so therefore you have all these opportunities to fail and to offer someone that within the relationship is pretty awesome. And I don't mean like massive mistakes. It's more just like little things like, oh, actually that wasn't funny at all. Yeah. But I'm going to keep shooting out jokes because I might get, if I got 4 right, 4 that you laughed at, like that's pretty awesome. It just allows you to be creative. And I think allowing your partner to fail allows.
There you go. And it's going back to this concept of, both adventure and entrepreneurs being allowed to fail and relationships. It's like, it seems like one of the things that we're learning is that to be successful, whether it's relationships, whether it's climbing mountains or expeditions or skiing or entrepreneurship, that you have to be okay. You have to accept that you might fail, and you have to fail in actuality to be successful.
That's so funny. I feel like we've just gone on paradoxical ends of the spectrum. We're just talking about how Alex cannot fail and how what a concept that is, and if you were to apply that to business.
But he failed a ton of times before he had that one moment.
He failed with protection.
Yeah. So he went up there and would go up and take falls, I'm sure, and learn the routes and practice it and like you were saying, choreograph it into his own little symphony, or his big symphony if he's climbing El Cap. And then once he gets it dialed down, that's what I'm saying is that
he takes the training wheels off.
Exactly.
Right. So we have to remember that too in relationships, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And in life, just not to be so hard on yourself.
So that means you'll hit
enlightenment.
Is enlightenment the perfect line? No, because he didn't just climb that perfect wall and then evaporate into enlightenment, go to the next level 5. He's still here and he still has to be human. And I guess that goes for anyone who has had an enlightened moment. Time goes on and you're still here.
Yeah.
That big win or where you're really special, then you have to go back and figure out how you're going to eat. And
yeah. But I also think that when you do get that big win, when you do have that moment of enlightenment or you finish that big project, it's also important to take the time to celebrate it and to take a breather and look back at what you've done and reflect and enjoy it. Because so oftentimes the people who are doing these types of projects that you're describing are so, almost neurotic in a way that they, as soon as something's done, they're just on to the next thing. They don't know how to slow down and enjoy the moment at times. I mean, I'm, maybe with myself, it's like I was trying to start another hotel before I even finished this one. And I had to tell myself, man, you don't have the money. What do this isn't don't do that. Calm down, focus on this project, finish it and enjoy that. And then get started on something new.
Yeah, can we talk about the nitty gritty of that? So you walk in, you don't come from the hotel world or the commercial real estate or anything that has to do with building. Am I right?
Yeah. Well, I was an engineer.
Right, but that has nothing to do with how you build a building. Am I right? Okay.
Yeah, I was not a general contractor or builder at all, and I was not in the hotel business.
So you wouldn't have even known to check the foundation before you purchased.
Or
yes. Would you?
Well, I mean, my inspector, it's just the type of thing that you don't think about. And now I will think about that. But I get, when we pulled this whole project off, we bought a 29-room hotel 2 miles away from Boulder on 7 acres with a wastewater treatment plant and a building with no foundation on it, all sorts of problems. And we had no idea what we were
And when
getting
was it
into.
built?
It was built in 1941.
Right.
But
So
then,
it can't help but have lots of problems, right? So
Yeah.
the way you see it, I'm assuming, is just that you're buying a piece of ground in the mountains.
well, but we had the advantage of actually having the structures built because we had customers the first day, even
That's
though the
impressive.
place wasn't perfect. We had customers the first day, and so we started learning on that first day.
So how was it built into your business model to fix all the things that we're going to need fixing? And then, in learning those mistakes, I guess what I'm trying to get at is it sounds like you went with flow to make this decision. It felt right. It felt more authentic to you and your mission in life, even without any awareness. Would you say that if that age-old statement of like, if I would have known then what I know now, I wouldn't have taken this on, or no?
No, I definitely still would have. This is such a fun project for me, and been such an opportunity to be part of the Boulder outdoor community and
And it was
work
built in
with
such a
Chris, my
beautiful-
business partner, and like all the staff. And
And the
I
mission
also
behind
think,
it is rad.
yeah, and I also think that it's still going to be a financial success.
To finish that point is like that passion that you have allowed you to make those initial mistakes. And like you said, a lot of other things came together and you got lucky. And therefore that's kind of some backup from the universe saying, hey, like you might not have been perfect, but look at the success you've had. It's like you've had that beyond yourself support. And so that's the point I'm trying to get is when you're in flow, you don't have to be perfect.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think that in most things, you don't have to be perfect, but you have to have perseverance.
Right.
And you have to have passion, because if you don't have passion, the perseverance isn't going to be there. Because if you're not excited about what you're doing, at some point, you're going to either not do it anymore or you're not going to be good at it.
Like Matt said earlier, it's like we were just talking to Matt Siegel when we took a pause, and I asked Matt what his mission in life was, and it was have fun. And it sounds simple. Is that right? No, enjoy it. He said, enjoy it.
Same thing.
He's an entrepreneur as well. And he's finding that if he's not, just like you're saying, if you're not enjoying the adventure of what it takes to run a business, then it's not worth it. But if you're enjoying it, that's part of your payoff. That's part of the equity that you're building. I would say that with skiing. Like I've still never found something more enjoyable to do with my time, even though there are moments of suffering and freezing and being sick because I've been on too many airplanes and maybe I sound full of myself because wouldn't that be nice to jet set around chasing snow? I mean, that's the perception of, I think, what people assume a pro skier does. But the truth is you have to show up, you have to deliver, you have to produce and keep producing for your clients or therefore your sponsors and keep reinventing yourself. And it takes a lot.
And to stay at a top level takes a tremendous amount of training and commitment and discipline. I think for me, I tried to be, I wanted to go that route of being a professional expedition climber. And I had the opportunities. And honestly, I don't think my discipline was quite there. And it takes a ton. So kudos to you and Matt and, all those guys who just work their asses off. And
oh,
it's
well,
pretty
like
amazing.
Matt also said, there have been way better people who have, what was it? There have been
worse things have happened to better people.
To better people. So in honor of all the people that's true for, I hope I can just do a fraction of some of the good people that I've known what they've done without anyone knowing.
Sure.
So.
And I think that, all of us, well, the two of us for certain have had a really lucky and wonderful, at least opportunities. I've had a lot of great luck in my life for sure.
Do you feel like there's any advice you'd give to someone who has been in your shoes, who, he starts off as an athlete and an adventurer, she, goes in, gets the degree you should have, right? Like, oh, I'm going to be an engineer because that's what grandpa was and blah, blah, blah. You still don't feel like you fit in. So you follow your passion, like they say. And for you, it was engineering jewelry. And then you found out that there wasn't the audience for that like you hoped. So, and now on your second business, which is I love adventure and I want to help other people who are looking for adventure find a place to stay where they can find it all in one place. Any advice for the guy like you who, back in the day when he really needed some words of encouragement, might
I think
need?
that, when you put yourself out there long enough, serendipity will find you eventually, especially if you've got an open heart and positive intentions. Probably won't be what you originally set out to, the goal or the destination you originally set out to get to. But I really believe in serendipity and the ability to pick yourself up after a failure or a defeat and let go of resentment to be able to find that serendipity.
Things don't always go as planned. We just have to dance with what life gives us and make the most of it. For me, a big takeaway from this conversation was to just slow down and take on the task at hand. I want to thank you for listening and hope somehow today's conversation inspired you to show up for something you truly believe in. If you enjoyed the conversation, give us a review on iTunes. Spread the word. Message me on social media and let me know what you're thinking. I love hearing from you. Until next time, see you in the mountains, unicorns.